All right. Well, happy Thursday to you. We are ready for some ELA today. I think we've got a fun lesson today. We're going to look at our vocabulary. Tomorrow is your test on Kitoto the Mighty. So let's review our vocabulary because it'll be part of your test as well tomorrow. So let's look at this first word. Say this for me. What is this word? Cautiously. Cautiously. Now let's look at the picture here. This guy is walking cautiously on top of a tree that's fallen down. What does that mean? It means he's walking very carefully so he doesn't slip off and get hurt. Cautiously means carefully. Let's scroll on down here. I don't know if it's going to let me. Here we go. Next word. Trickle. Okay, what do you see happening here? See some rocks and like maybe a creek that would be in the mountains, and not a whole big bunch of water, but just a little bit of water is just trickling over the rocks little by little. A little bit of water is trickling over the rocks. So trickle means you just have a little bit of water. Let's go on to the next one. Next word is marveled. Wow, look at that beautiful sight there. I might say we marveled at the rainbow with the mountain in the background and all the flowers blooming below the rainbow. Just a beautiful sight. It's something that's amazing, or you're in awe when you see it. You might say awesome if you marvel at something like this beautiful picture. Marveled. Mighty. The lion. Something that's mighty is strong and powerful. So this lion is strong and he's powerful. Mighty, like Kitoto. The vocabulary word is distant. Something is distant, it's far away. Looks like these are some dolphins jumping in the ocean. Yeah, the ocean's kind of distant from us, isn't it? It's not too close to us, but it's not too far away. We still go to the beach sometimes. You ever swam with the dolphins in a distant place? I got to one time. Proclaimed. Well, look here. This is one that wouldn't be the picture that I would expect for proclaimed. We've got a family sitting around the dinner table. If you proclaim something, you say it a strong way to show it was important for others to hear. Looks like everybody's looking at him, so he must be proclaiming something. What do you think he's saying to his family? Maybe he's saying, I made an A on my spelling test. Really loud so everybody knows it's important. Looks like his mom and dad and sister would be happy. Majestic. Oh, wow. Look at that beautiful picture. Something that's majestic is impressive and beautiful. Wow, those mountains are impressive. I bet those are the Rocky Mountains. And here's some plains and the buffalo there. That's a majestic picture, isn't it? Impressive and beautiful. Sumptuous. Sumptuous is something that's impressive and expensive looking. Now that looks like some French palace or something like that, doesn't it? With waterfalls and water jets and golden statues, and wow, that looks very sumptuous, very impressive, and very expensive looking. Sumptuous. And our last word is hoard. A hoard is a group of valuable things that's usually kept secret and carefully guarded by someone. Maybe this is a pirate's hoarded treasure. He's robbed the ships and he's put in his treasure chest and buried it in the sand. He's hoarding all the gold he can. So there's our vocabulary words for this week. You'll need to know them for our test tomorrow, remember. I want to talk about this with you now. This is called author's craft. Author's craft. Now, this is something you've probably not heard of before. But when you think of the word craft, what do you think of? Well, you make something with your hand, or you draw something, or paint something that's a craft. Well, would you say that stories are a type of artwork? In some way, the author is putting together a piece of art for somebody to read and enjoy. So authors craft their stories. Let's look at this. Author's craft is the language and technique a writer uses to make his or her writing interesting. Marley has shown us some of her artwork on our Google Meets, and she shows us her little palette that she paints on, and they look beautiful. So she's crafting some paintings. Well, authors craft their stories using certain language or techniques. They make his or her writing interesting, and they communicate ideas to the reader. Nobody wants to read a boring story, do we? So authors try to use these 5 things to make their story interesting. One of the techniques that an author uses is voice, the author's writing style that makes his or her writing unique. Later in the year, we're going to look at some Roald Dahl stories together. I'm hoping we get to read The Witches together this in October, so we'll see. But Roald Dahl has a great voice. You know it's his story as soon as you start reading it, the way it's written. He uses certain words to show his or her style. An author's voice may change depending on the genre of the text. And authors put a mood in their story. They'll make the reader feel emotions while they're reading a text, emotions and feelings. Have you ever been reading a story and you felt either happy or sad or scared as you read the story? The author was creating a mood as he wrote. Mysteries might make you feel suspense or surprise. Fantasy stories might make you feel full of wonder or excitement. An article, if you read an article about science, it might make you feel serious or thoughtful. And this is called an anecdote. Anecdote. It's a short, funny, or interesting story related to a character or events. While on a school field trip, a teacher tells her students about a field trip she once took with her classmates. So sometimes I'll use anecdotes when I describe the vocabulary words, and I might relate them to some experience that I've had. That would be the anecdote. So the author could use that to make it more interesting. The language, the vocabulary the author uses, precise nouns, sensory words like bright blue sky, or words that make you see things or feel things. Vivid verbs make the text more interesting. Selma ate popcorn. That's boring, isn't it? But an author could use some really good language to make it more interesting, like each kernel of the buttery popcorn crunched loudly in Selma's mouth. Wow. I'd take this sentence anytime over this sentence, wouldn't you? So when you're writing, you don't want to just say Selma ate popcorn. Make the reader experience that popcorn. When I can taste butter in my mouth just reading that. I can feel popcorn crunching under my teeth when I'm reading this. So the language makes the language you use, if you use it really well, like this sentence is written, makes the readers experience what you're trying to tell about. And this isn't Super Bowl, it's hyperbole. Hyperbole. Hyperboles are exaggerations. Have you ever exaggerated? Said, if I have to do one more assignment, I'm just going to go jump off a bridge. Something like that. You're not really. You're just tired of doing work. Exaggerations that makes things sound bigger, better, or more than what they truly are. Like you could say, that's a good idea. Or you could say, that's the best idea I've ever heard in my life. That makes it bigger or better than it actually is. It's a hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. Okay. So I want to go back and I want to think about one thing we talked about yesterday, along with this author's craft. Remember yesterday we talked about theme, and we talked about how stories have a theme, and it's kind of the moral to the story or the lesson to the story, or sometimes it's just an idea that the story presents to us. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to put a really good story on the next slide from Storyline Online called The Empty Pot. And you're going to really like this story because this story has a great theme. And as you listen to the next slide and you listen to The Empty Pot, by the way, the author, Rami Malek, he's been in both of the Not at the Museum movies. He plays the Egyptian pharaoh that has the gold plate and all that. So if you've seen Not at the Museum, you'll recognize him. But this has a great theme in this story, The Empty Pot. So I want you to listen to the story. I want you to look for two things. Try to figure out what you would think the theme of this story is. And number two, I want you to think about what is some of the crafts that the author used when, I think it's a she, wrote this story, The Empty Pot. Do the words stand out in your head? Do you feel the emotions? Is there a good mood to it? What kind of voice is the author writing in? Is the language, is there any hyperbole? So I want you to think about these things and think about what the theme is as you listen to The Empty Pot. You're going to like this story. Listen to it now, and then after it, we'll talk about it together.